welcome to the official catch-up. Today we've got a full squad of us all on. It's myself, Chris, and today I'm joined by Derek. How you doing, Derek?
I'm good, mate. How's you?
Good. And Ben, as always, how are you doing?
Aye, magic, mate. Magic.
You've probably been on more catch-ups than me and Mozza lately, actually, Ben.
I know. Just keep him busy.
And we've also got Kevin Marshall on, who's obviously been on the show before. How you doing, Kev? It's been a bit of a while since you've been on the show.
Yeah, it has been a wee while actually. I'm doing good, mate. Thanks. How are you?
Yeah, doing great. Hopefully returning to normality. I was up at Kelty on Friday watching the Scotland game, which was obviously a massive disappointment. Really excited for that. I think most people had a wee bit of buzz, hoping we would get a result, but typical Scotland, like you doing there.
Aye, as always.
I don't know if we should even go into that, really. I mean, Scott McTominay was playing at right back, I noticed. Did anyone spy that? He was
playing right centre half.
Was
he? While we've got Leeds United's captain, who's a centre half, on the bench. So, riddle me that.
Who was playing right back then? Was it Forrest?
No, it was... it was Forrest, sorry. It was Forrest and Robertson in the wing back.
I didn't watch it. I can't stand watching Scotland.
You miss nothing, mate.
Yeah. There's no much hope against the Czech reserves on Mondays.
I mean, the only hope was Lyndon Dykes looked good. But even then, he was on his own the whole game. And we're at a home game against Israel, one shot on target, which was a penalty. So says a lot about us just now.
And he didn't even get 90 minutes, did he?
No, he only got about half, pretty much.
Yeah.
Shocking, man, shocking. But I'll probably still watch the game and hope that we'll do something, but probably not, to be honest.
More in hope than expectation, as always.
We've actually got stuff to talk about, to be honest. We've kind of been sort of strolling away through it the last few episodes to keep people listening and whatnot. But the Soccer Shop Challenge Cup, we were fortunate enough to live stream it yesterday. I only made one mistake, obviously confusing Vela Leaving with Vela Leafing of the Lowland League.
Were you the spreadsheet guy? I didn't realise you were the spreadsheet guy in that.
Well, I was doing the live stream and I was doing the chat as well, but I was listening rather than watching. So it said Vela Leaving. I'm like, Vela Leaving. So yeah, that was the one mistake. But I'll take that because that's going to happen throughout this season. I think so.
I can't believe you've not made the obvious segue here, Chris, that obviously we're very thankful to the Soccer Shop Direct for sponsoring the podcast as well as that cup.
Well, I was going to get to that, obviously. since you just plugged it, I was thinking, right, we're going to be speaking about the shop. Oh, God, I keep calling it...
Soccer Shop. There's some mistakes.
I keep going to Sean Connery. I want to say the Shocker Shop. The Shocker Shop. It says weird things about me, but no, there was a bit of buzz about it, obviously. There was a wee bit of talk, probably from myself and a few others, that maybe the earlier round should have been regionalised, given the current sort of climate of football. But, there was some fantastic ties. I mean, right off the bat, obviously, Pollock versus Trinent. That was the first tie out the bag, if you will, and that's exactly the sort of tie you wanted in the cup. But was there any sort of ties? Well, there's probably loads of ties, but anything else that sort of caught your eye in the first round? Or any rounds?
Obviously for us, co-winning, we've managed to get a first round draw. We don't seem to be able to get buys in any cup draw. If there's a buy available, we'll be playing the first round. So we have Socky. I don't know a lot about Socky. Have you guys got any feedback for me for Socky?
I was along there doing some photographs for them, stuff like that, just a few weeks ago, and the place is looking really well. And like I say, that there is a wee bit of a buzz about the place. I'm not sure what it would be like on the park. I would guess just on reputation alone, I would give Kilwinning the edge. But like I say, given the vibe about the place, I wouldn't expect it to be just turn up and a walkover. I think that should actually be quite an interesting game.
Okay. So I don't know a lot about these teams, so it's going to be interesting, but hopefully we can get through. And then I think we've got Gallifrey in the second round. So
he'll give you a game, definitely. Right. I'd still expect Kilwinning to run out winners. I think pretty much everyone would, but either a decent, solid East of Scotland side that seem to have made a couple of decent pickups. They had a tough time last year, but obviously hoping to have a better season this time round.
Yeah, I think David McGaughey still plays for them. I always love that, David McGaughey playing for Socky.
I love that.
Yeah, and yeah, you mentioned obviously Gallagher-Dean. You'll have them in the second round if you beat Socky. Another away tie. Another away tie by the Netherdale. You ever been down to the Netherdale, Ben?
No, I haven't. Never been into it. Kind of Lowland League like, so it'll be interesting to go to these new grounds and see some Lowland East teams in the cup games. So that'll be good.
There's your headline. Co-Winning's main man has assumed they're beating Socky and he's already planning ahead to Gala.
That's not entirely true. I said to you guys before, we were absolutely hopeless in the Junior Cup last year against Bridge of Dawn from Aberdeen. They think had about 20 fans or something like that, and didn't really have much about it in the first game, but somehow managed to draw and then pumped us up in Aberdeen, so that was fun. So our record in cups are a bit hit or miss, shall we say, so hopefully we'll make amends in this one.
Yeah, and speaking about other ties, obviously Bonnyrigg Rose were drawn in the first round against at home to Newton Grange Star. I think that's a bit of an interesting one, obviously a wee bit of a derby at that one. Then, to be honest, if it had been the other way around at Nitton, I think it would have been very interesting. I always quite like Newton Grange Star. I like their ground and going through there. I've been through a few times, mainly with the development squads and whatnot. But yeah, I think Bonnyrigg are obviously going to be favourites. But don't know what do you think, Kev, about Newton Grange Star? Do you think they can maybe have pull-offs? I think that.
Well, it's one of these things. If we hadn't had the layoff that we'd had, where we've been away for so long, then I would have probably given them a better chance, because I think they were finishing fairly strong towards the end of last season, and as you say, it is a nice wee ground to go to, and if it had been the other way around and they hadn't had the long layoff, then I would think it would have been a closer game. But like you, I would imagine that Bonnyrigg would probably have too much for them.
Yeah, I think the tie of the round, or the tie of the second round, is definitely Talbot refacing Kelty, isn't it? I'm kind of looking through the draw to see any other ones that really jump out. I like the look of Gartcairn hosting Hillfield Swifts. Two kind of very, relatively new senior sides. Both kind of very ambitious as well. So that'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. Gartcairn's made a couple of really eye-catching signings over the summer. So there's great ties through it, though. Just this is now, I think it's fair to say, the premier non-league cup competition, because 140 odd sides in it, and you're seeing all the traditional kind of old school junior sides meeting all these new sides, your BSCs, your Bonnyriggs and so on. And I just think it's going to be a cracking competition, full stop.
100%. Got to agree with that. One of the ties I think I noticed from a West point of view, Beath versus Clydebank. Both teams are in the West Premier and have been for a few years, so that'll be a close game. I'd imagine both teams could beat each other on their day, so that'll be an exciting tie for sure. I think probably from a West point of view anyway, that's one of the ones I'll be keeping an eye out for. And I'm not a massive Beath fan, so it won't be a problem if Beath get beat.
There are quite a few East versus West ties, which I think probably adds a wee bit something to it as well. And especially when you kind of look at where they are, I think we would probably all say that the West Premier League is the higher standard out of the lot there. But there are quite a few in the conferences, so the next tier down, if you like, East versus West ties, and I think they're probably where you might see some really good games coming up. You can, without any obvious favourites in there, and I'd like to say it'll be a good couple of away days for some of the fans in that as well, assuming they're allowed to go.
Yeah,
I think fellow, probably the most interesting one's Gretna at home to Cookie.
Yeah,
because that's two, well, on the face of it, very, very even teams, I'd say. Cookie probably fancy their chances. I think there's scalp there as well.
Yeah, they obviously put out Cumbernauld Colts in the Scottish Cup, and I had on a wee bit of a run, and obviously I got on quite a lot with some of the boys at Cookie. They have lost a few sort of key players, but I think there is a few games from the lower end of the sort of Lowland League against your East and West of Scotland teams that, don't know, we might have sort of shock here and there, but I liked Largs. Someone promoted said Largs Thistle versus Dalbeattie Star was the one to watch, and Largs Thistle basically were promoting that as a tie of the round day. So
without falling into the trap of making assumptions, there's a potential kind of all Lowland League affair there as well.
Yeah.
Shire versus Spartans, assuming Spartans can get past Canoe.
Yeah.
Which is maybe not a foregone conclusion, but let's say potentially an all Lowland League, and I think that's probably the only one in there that I spotted.
And I kind of was winding Shire up about that, obviously, because they do have somewhat of a history, if you will. Other than that, I mean, I was quite interested in Dundonald Bluebell versus Rob Roy. That sort of caught my eye, and Heriot Watt versus Dunbar or Drumchapel. Heriot Watt Uni have made some really decent signings. They'll probably be pushing for promotion to the East of Scotland Premier against potentially either Dunbar, who are obviously in the Premier at the moment, sort of, surviving and trying to take strides forward, or Drumchapel, who have obviously, we know that have made some fantastic sort of signings, if you will.
It's just nice to be back talking about football again, isn't it?
Yeah.
And games and cup ties and that. It's been far too long for it.
I think that was a good thing about the draw yesterday, being live on the stream. People could actually just watch and see something positive happening and get the excitement about a cup competition. It's obviously the first kind of season with the West teams involved as well, so it's going to be a new thing for everyone. So I think everybody was just really buzzing to get a draw and see what was going to happen and start a cup run.
Yeah, obviously we can't go through every single tie. All the graphics are obviously up in the sort of Catchup socials and stuff like that, but we'd be here all day with the ties. But certainly they're the ones, like you mentioned, obviously probably in the first round I would say Pollock versus Trinent. In the second round you're obviously looking at that Kelty Hearts Auchinleck Talbot game. Yeah. They're obviously the ties around, and we'll probably have a wee chat sooner to the time when we get I think Kelty are obviously looking to sign a few players. I've not really seen much from Talbot. I think they've got the same sort of squad. I've been trying to get on their website for a few weeks, but the thing's no loading. It's like website coming this week, new website coming this week or something, and it's been like that for about 2 months, I would say. So, so I don't really know much about the Talbot squad. I've certainly not seen anything in terms of in relation to like Darvo and that making sort of transfers or whatever. But yeah, interesting sort of few ties in there, I would say.
Yeah, I think when you're talking about Talbot, Chris, there, I think they haven't really brought in anyone this season, but they've kept the entire squad together. So I think bar one, I think Keir Samson hasn't signed yet for Talbot. There's rumour that he might go to Darvo this year, and that would be a big signing for Darvo. He was one of the main strikers last year at Talbot. So in terms of squad, they're going to be that squad from last year that were capable of beating anyone, and they obviously played in the Scottish Cup and stuff as well last year. So very, very capable side, regardless of improvements. They probably will bring in some maybe kind of younger players to maybe bolster their depth. But in terms of their main players, they're all still there and ready to go, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I think we mentioned obviously Kelty, when they played Kelty in the Scottish Cup, they were really impressive, really physical, sort of outclassed Kelty on the night. But I think one thing you have to remember is that I think the Kelty team's changed a lot. Much different team from Kelty. It'll be interesting to see what the sort of attitude is going towards it. I'm sure Barry won't want another loss to Talbot in a cup. Right, moving on. We kind of done it on the last time we were all on the pod. Obviously, we kind of went through our sort of favourites and whatnot. Discussed the idea of obviously sort of individual predictions, not so much in terms of league positions and stuff like that, but how do you see the sort of seasons panning out in the Lowland League or the East of Scotland or the West of Scotland, or if you have predictions for the South of Scotland, then more than welcome too. But I have a feeling, personally, that Cumbernauld Colts will get points off of Kelty this season. That would be my prediction, because they've done it the last 2 seasons. It seems to me like, especially at Broadwood, that Cumbernauld Colts have something about them. They always seem to do well against Kelty. You've obviously seen it as well, Kev. I think it'll be interesting. I think that would be one of my predictions, that Cumbernauld will do it again, get points off of Kelty this season.
So we're doing this one sensible prediction, one totally outlandish one.
well,
just for a bit of fun.
Bold predictions, anything you can come up with.
Yes, let's do it. Right, go on, give us a bold one. You've given us a reasonably sensible one now.
I'm going to get slated for that. A bold prediction is that East Kilbride will not win the league this season. I don't know how bold that. The reason being, I mean, I got on with no disrespect to the East Kilbride boys. I got on fairly well with a few of them, obviously Sean Winter and that. But I just think I've seen it myself with the named guys coming down, and some guys have done it, some guys haven't. And I just think they've got an older squad. Come winter, come sort of second half in the Sweden, I think they'll tire out. I really do. And then at the beginning, they've got all the pressure, all the time to gel and stuff like that. They've maybe not got the legs the second half. That's how I see that going. I don't think they're going to be in contention. And that is probably going to get a wee bit of stick, but that's just how I see it.
That's part of the fun and games of the podcast, isn't it? Right, a reasonable, sensible prediction and a bold one. I'll say you kind of stole my thunder there because I think the Colts are looking pretty strong. I think they've done really good work. But I'm going to say for my bold... No, not for the bold one first, for the reasonably sensible one. I think Gretna's going to have a better season. Things just seem a lot more settled this time round. They've got Rowan, who's obviously been in post for a wee bit now, knows the club like the back of his hand. It's not like last season where Chris Humphrey was there in his first managerial gig and he was trying to cobble a squad together last minute almost. So I kind of fancy Gretna to be reasonably strong and go mid-table this year, to be honest. I think like they've got kind of solid squad, 17, 18 boys there, another couple of quality additions, and they might be the kind of strongest southern team in the Lowland this year. But in terms of a bold one, right, I'm going to go on a similar theme to you then, Chris. Kelty Hearts will not win this league this year.
So we're going back to us both thinking Bonnyrigg are probably the favourites.
we're purely going against each other again for the banter. But no, I think last year was Kelty's year, and obviously circumstances have conspired against them. I just feel like their squad isn't as well-rounded as it was last year. They've made some cracking additions, don't get me wrong, but it's a stronger league around them, and I don't think they've stepped up as much as like Kilby have stepped up. Rose have still got the same squad, but we know what they're capable of. BSC is a bit of an unknown till we know what the attack looks like, because it's a brand new attack, but defensively midfield, really, really sound keeper as well. So I don't think Kelty will win the league.
I'm burst with anticipation of Kev just saying a Bonnyrigg won't win the league. We left with like Spartans or East Stirlingshire or something like that. So, on you go, Kev. What are your sort of predictions? Have you got anything you can sort of add?
Well, I'm not going to split you two guys. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play it safe. I'm going to go with the East of Scotland rather than the Lowland League, and just I'll let you two guys fight it out on your own. So, like I say, I think because the layoff has been so long, and any team that kind of finished last season with a bit of momentum has probably lost that momentum, and it's so to me predictions are kind of a bit of a finger in the air this year. Having said all of that, the teams that finished kind of the top 3-4 in that East of Scotland League last year, I would expect, obviously Bo'ness have gone up as champions, but I would expect Broxburn, Trinent, Hillabeath to all be kind of in the running there. So just to stir it up a wee bit, I'm going to go for Hillabeath to win the East of Scotland Premier League this year. An outlandish bold prediction. I've got a wee sneaky suspicion that Hillfield Swifts will cause a few upsets. I know they came on leaps and bounds last year, having kind of started pretty slowly, and they've kind of squeezed up into the Premier League. But I'm not sure they'll be the whipping boys that everybody thinks they'll be. I think they could be a wee bit of a surprise team. Maybe no challenging for the league, but certainly taking points off of some of the more established, bigger names that you would normally associate as being the challengers.
Yeah, and I think you said something similar, Derek. I think you said that the Hillfield Swifts would be a surprise in East of Scotland when we were going through it.
Aye, they've caught my eye. I really like the way that they've run the club. For such a new club, they're doing things very, very maturely. And I fancy them to do all right. I think that it's not out of the realms that, as Kev says, they'll take points off established names, Sherlin Lithgows and such like, and be reasonably comfortable rather than fighting at the bottom end.
Come on, Ben, give us Starville, get relegated.
So, my predictions, let's see. Right, I think the first one I'm going to go with is probably my, I'd say probably my more bold statement. I'm going to say Troon will stay up this year. So I think Troon will stay up.
Amahin thinks here.
I'm very surprised at that, given the last few weeks of the podcast, you've been given a lot
after Ryan Stevenson gate and all that.
Troon will stay up, and Christian Nani will score 20 goals. Right, there's a prediction for you there, Troon. In all seriousness, I think. Let's see. There's going to be 7 teams relegated this year. I think one of the big teams will get relegated. That's what I think. There's one team going to have an absolute stinking. I don't know which team, but I think we'll get an absolute shock in terms of this 7-team relegation. One team's going to get absolutely caught out.
I like that. I like that prediction.
And go down. In terms of the bold one, I'm going to be a proper pessimist here, right? And say the season won't finish. I'm going to go with that. I don't think we'll actually get to an end of a season. I think we'll have problems due to rules and teams having to fold because of no fans and stuff like that. I think that's where we're going with that. I'm going to say we won't actually finish the entire season.
That's I don't even know if that's bold, because the reason being is because it is quite it is a possibility that might happen.
I just think if we don't have fans, and the teams won't be able to continue, it'll be impossible for majority of teams in our leagues to actually survive. So I'm going to go with that as a bold option. It's maybe not as bold as you think, but I thought it was quite bold. So
no, I agree with that. I think if you can't get fans in by at the latest the new year, they might just kind of sack the season and come back next year.
Well, from what I've heard, fans are meant to be back for when the season does start on October 10th, or when it's meant to start. But we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, it's going to be a complete different reality to the fans and everyone at the club. I mean, from what I've heard, obviously, even with training and the players, what they have to go through in away games and stuff, no showering and all that sort of stuff, it's quite a lot of sacrifices and a lot out with the norm for these guys. So depends how it changes. I mean, it's changing every month, and it goes back to what we were saying about the cup, obviously, but being regionalised, given the fact that there's some Scottish places in lockdown are meant to be, and it's all unknown at the moment, I guess.
I think the latest understanding, just to give a heads up to anyone listening, is that if the season does start without fans allowed in, it'll basically just be the squads, the managers, and up to 10 officials for each side. But obviously that's not sustainable for any club at our level, never mind kind of the weird ones. So I think, and from what you're saying, Chris, the understanding is if the Scottish Government loosen it, there'll be a limit of about 100 or 200 fans initially just to bed it in, and we'll go from there. So we're not going to have unrestricted crowds all season, I don't think, until there's a vaccine. But at least we've got the potential there of getting bodies in and slowly but surely working our way up with it.
Yeah.
I think the key thing about that will be the fact that the friendlies are going to take place kind of roundabout kind of middle of September, and there are no fans, just to say this players and staff. They're not advertised friendlies either, according to the league. So I think that'll be a big test. If people can behave and follow the procedures properly, then we might get the fans back. But the last thing you want to do is have a friendly that's meant to be behind closed doors, and you've got 100 folk turning up at the friendly try again to watch their team play. So I think the fans have to obviously do their thing, do their bit, and the clubs have to follow the procedures and make sure they have all the things in place to give us a chance to get the fans back. But if not, as I say, I think we'll be screwed, and teams won't be able to cope it for much longer than probably 3 or 4 months.
Short-term pain for long-term gain and all that.
Exactly. I think that's the whole thing about this whole pandemic, is that people start moaning about things that are happening right now, but you're doing it for the better of the greater good, and for something to happen long-term. So, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's funny, obviously, trying to predict these things. Obviously, the most unpredictable one is probably the one you said there, obviously, Ben, about COVID-19, because no one really knows what's going to happen week to week. Obviously, I mean, we've been at training, then it got called off, then different rules, and it is literally changing almost every week from what I've heard. So it's just crazy. But one thing I'd probably call you out, Moz, on it with Gretna is.
Homemaker.
I'm surprised you know, in terms of the borders teams, I'm surprised you never went for Berwick Rangers actually to maybe push over Gretna.
Yeah, it's I think Berwick's the favourites to be the best kind of lower Lowland sides, so to speak, the kind of southern Lowland sides. But I don't know, I quite like the way Gretna's kind of quietly going about their business now, and Berwick, to be fair, have made some very, very eye-catching moves, especially off the pitch. I think they're doing all the right things just now, but who knows? We'll need to wait and see what it's like in the pitch. I think Gretna's been slept on a bit, whereas Berwick, most people seem to think are going to have an alright year.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my main point there.
My worry about Gretna was they have brought in a lot more depth, I would say, but it's been sort of younger boys, and they might have an issue with sort of experienced heads, which is we see sometimes. Obviously, I think the example last season was probably Vale Leven, who had a really young squad. So
yeah, and I think the likelihood is Gretna will end up getting a couple of Queen of the South players on loan again once that's settled on the Queen's side, and they've started making some interesting moves. So it might be better players than you'd have thought going on loan to Gretna. So we'll see.
I'm actually regretting one thing. Actually, I shouldn't have said Cumbernauld Colts taking points off Kelly Hearts. I should have said the uni teams taking points. One of the big teams, because that always seems to happen as well. So Stirling Uni or Edinburgh Uni. But I think the main one for me is Jack Smith. Actually, getting to see Jack Smith score a goal in person, because it's still not happened. In fairness to Jack, though, he's no started every game I've seen of him. He's obviously had these injury issues, but hopefully I'll get to see a goal scored from him with the Cali Braves this season. Moving on, obviously, I don't think it's been mentioned yet on the podcast, but I think a few of us are actually working on the Lowland League Football Review at SLFL Review on Twitter. Got in touch with a few guys, obviously, like yourself, Derek, and yourself, Kev, and me. It's something that we've actually thought about before, but probably not really had the experience in it, Derek. And I'm actually really looking forward to work. I have been working on it anyway, but for it to come out and obviously get a wee bit of promotion for the boys and the Lowland League and whatnot. So.
We actually had a chat quite recently about it, didn't we? Saying that obviously the Highlands had it for a few years now through Niall, and it was kind of the only thing really Lowland-wise that we didn't have in place. But God love me, he's a glutton for punishment. He's got enough work and he's played with the Highland, and he's decided to take it upon himself to come to the Lowland and do it as well. So, the two of us are obviously contributing. Catchup itself will be contributing, and if anyone's interested in it, it's the same kind of idea. It reminds me, if you remember the wee red book you used to get, the kind of football almanacs of Scotland, and it's just nice to have as a kind of a yardstick, especially with the Lowland being so new still as a league. So it'd be nice to look back on in years to come and see what happened in these years, you know. But obviously I'll be getting them, and I'd encourage other folk to as well.
Yeah, and yourself, Kev, obviously you do a lot of work, not only for the Lowland League, but East of Scotland and stuff. I believe he's been in touch. Niall's been in touch with you, getting a few of the pictures.
I've supplied a few photographs to him. I've offered to supply as many as he wants. But I, like Derek was saying, I think it's great that somebody's taking the bull by the horns and is actually going out their way to produce something like that. It's one of those things that, you know, you might stick it in a box up the attic and we'll look at it for another 20 years, but it's always a great thing to have, kind of old football annuals and stuff like that for when you were a kid. So I'll be glad to see it coming out. It'll be great.
I noticed Fash made a wee comment. He said he's only getting it because he's on the front cover. I guess. I also noticed Fash. He was saying that he felt like RoboCop after training the other week.
I suspected a few of the boys might be struggling a wee bit more after the pre-season we've had.
But it's been great though. It's been class. A lot of the clubs are obviously sharing their pictures of training, seeing the boys obviously, you know, smiling and happy all the way and stuff. I did feel a wee bit sorry about. I know a few teams were training yesterday, but I noticed sort of Cumbernauld Colts were tweeting out during this sort of cup draw because they're obviously not in it due to the ineligible player apparently last season. That was a weird one. I knew about Arniston not being able to field a team. Last year's one, but nothing really was said about Cumbernauld Colts.
I think we might have very briefly mentioned it. Like, I had a very kind of slight recollection of it happening, but I'll be honest, I don't really remember what happened.
Yeah.
So it's one of these things. They're missing out in year one here. They'll be back for year two, and it's just going to get even bigger and better, basically. So
yeah, I do remember, because I did look back, and I remember Hill of Beef putting them out. I think it was after extra time.
yes, aye.
But other than that, I do not recall. That's one of those things, I guess. I mean, there has been a few occasions when we've covered the league, obviously, that I remember that sort of thing happening, which is obviously disappointing, but you move on, don't you?
That's it. It's one of these things that when you're a wee club and you're relying on so few volunteers, it's going to happen at some point. You just need to get through
it. happens at all levels, really. And
Yeah.
we've seen it in Champions League, so if they can make the mistake, anybody can.
Yeah, and another thing, obviously, that we've been involved in recently, you probably saw the tweet out yesterday or the Facebook post, but we've kind of been approached by Eddie Martin, who's Dunfermline Athletic mental health ambassador. He sent us the media pack for the Fife Suicide Prevention campaign. I think it's Suicide Prevention Week this whole week. So obviously, like myself, Sean, Kev, we're all from Fife, so great to get involved in that sort of thing. And it's been tough. We've kind of talked about it. Obviously, we had Libby Emerson, obviously off from back on side, but I don't think there's anyone that's not been affected during this period, either financially, emotionally, perhaps even physically during this. So it's obviously great for us to promote such things, you know.
Absolutely. It's as you say, especially in these times we're in now. But they're more important than ever, these kind of causes, charities. So it's obviously something we're more than happy to stand behind. I think the only other thing that's happened recently is Kelty's signed another 35-year-old. So
he's 36.
I'm being polite then. To take the sarcasm out, seems like a cracking signing, to be fair. Obviously did his work at Peterhead, so it'll be interesting to see that kind of fire race between East Kilbride and Kelty this year. I'm really looking forward to when they face each other.
I'm at the stage now where I probably know more about the non-league than I do about league football, so I don't actually know too much about Jamie Stevenson. But one thing I have heard that he's a utility player. He can sort of play a bit everywhere. But I did find something quite funny. I do believe someone referred to Peterhead Football Club as Peterhead Feeder Club because of the amount of players that are obviously heading down Kelty way. So I thought that was quite funny, having a sort of league team feeder to a Lowland League side. But I suppose it's the same with Darvel. I don't know. A few league sort of players going down Darvel's way as well. So are we? I take it we're not the feeder league anymore.
Well, it's just getting stronger every year, isn't it? I know it's like a broken record. We constantly say it, but I think especially now with the West of Scotland on board, that the same way there's now pressure on the bottom of League Two, and League Two teams are going to have to get their act together. And you're seeing League Two teams now spending more and getting their squads together in a different way. The Lowland is now getting that way with the pressure coming from below, and it can only be a good thing.
Yeah, I think the thing about obviously players are getting the opportunity to maybe work and earn through football. So with the teams in the West now kind of coming into the fold, I know speaking to some players recently that they've had offers from leagues, kind of League One, League Two, and things like that, and they didn't really fancy it because the money isn't as good as everyone thinks it is. Probably up at that level, and they can enjoy themselves and play close to home and still do their job and still earn the money and all these kind of things. So yeah, I think those teams are going to need to watch out, because I think there'll be certainly guys. There's probably guys you'd imagine it up in the east and in the north, Scotland playing in league football that maybe want to get back home at some point, and they can get back down to wherever they live, and they can probably earn similar kind of money doing two things. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how squads can develop over the next 2 or 3 years in that sense.
With what's been happening in the last few months, obviously people are maybe now looking at their work-life balance and what's priority to them and stuff like that. So you might find that actually starts filtering down into some of the players as well, where they need to reassess their situation, and some of them, I don't even want to say drop down to our level, because I'm not even sure it is a drop down for a lot of people now. But you might find that you do see a lot more people making the switch from League Two sides, for example, to Lowland or West of Scotland League sides.
Yeah, and it's a good point, Kev, because I was messaging Dell, the Shire manager, earlier, because obviously he's 2 years of management, just saying, well done, mate, blah, blah, blah. And even at this level, there are sacrifices to be made from the players, and it goes to the point, obviously, maybe you do want to be a bit closer to home if money's not the biggest issue, like it's like what you were saying. It goes back to what you were saying there, Ben.
Yeah, I think that's an important one for guys, and I guess you've got kids as well. You maybe don't want to go away and travel all day because you've got family and things like that as well. So yeah, I think it's a fair point for anyone right now in this.
And on that note, we'll move on to plugs. I'll let unless he wants someone else to go first. Obviously, Derek usually goes first, as it's been since the start of time of this podcast.
I love how you make it sound like I insist on going first there, by the way. Cheers for that.
Part of his contract.
So, you'll find me on Twitter at Mozzaplays, 2 Zs, and you'll find me everywhere else through Twitter, basically. You go then, Ben.
Just get me on Twitter at Mr. Ben Grant. I'm always open for abuse, so send it on. I'm quite happy.
Yeah, I'm at KM Photo. You'll find me on Twitter and Facebook and various other places as well. Obviously, there's not been a lot of match photography recently, but hopefully that will change soon. Yeah,
and I did actually catch. So I think obviously went down to Pillar Beef. I noticed that was pretty decent, and it was actually a warm summer's day. I noticed I enjoyed that actually, seeing that on Twitter.
Yep, and I've recently splashed the cash and bought myself a drone as well. So
nice.
Maybe get some aerial photographs sometime soon as well.
So basically, what you're saying is you're not going to be missing any football if it's behind closed doors.
That's like I'll just sit in somebody's back garden and follow the
Love that approach. Love that.
It needs a Camelin stand when you've got a drone.
Was it? I can't remember. It was an international game. Was it? No, it was like Serbia versus Albania or something like that. There was a drone and things. I think it was quite hairy between them two teams anyway. But I remember.
Was it not? Did it not have a flag going down and it all kicked off? I'm sure there was some kind of political angle to it.
Oh God, I just didn't put anything silly on your drone, I guess. But yeah, and you can find obviously the Catchup at official Catchup on Twitter. I think it's still Lowland League Catchup. On Facebook,
yep.
Instagram, I think it's official Catchup, and you can find me at Rampant FM. We do have more stuff to talk about, but pretty straightforward episode again today, guys. I'm hoping, obviously, we're all hoping that we can at least talk about games soon. I think that's the main sort of priority. Everyone wants to get back to games. When I was up at Kelty on Friday, I didn't dare look at the pitch or anything like that, or the stands, because I didn't want to torture myself. But you do. I think everyone's been missing it, obviously, and it ties in with obviously what we've been talking about. Like some mental health and stuff like that, because a lot of people do depend on football, and even just football chat. I know during the course of lockdown, people have messaged us saying, cheers for the chats, cheers for this, that, and the next thing. So yeah, hopefully it's back soon.
Absolutely. And do us a favour, before the next episode, we want to hear your bold predictions as well. We don't want to be the ones that are out in their arses on our Todd. So if you've got any mental predictions, fire them into us and we'll roast you next time.
I think that East Kilbride one's going to sting a wee bit.
He's already regretting it. I love it.
It's safe now. You can't take it back.
I'll edit it out.
You can edit. He's got full edit control there.
Of course I'll not. But I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But obviously, I'm not sure if we'll be back next week. I don't know if there's going to be much else to talk about. We've just had the cup draw, but we'll try and, until football's back once every couple of weeks. Hopefully, there might be friendlies to maybe chat about, and we'll see how squads are shaping up, and hopefully Auckland Talbot get their website sorted. So we'll wait and see with that one. But we appreciate everyone that listens. Obviously, we want to thank our sponsors, the Soccer Shop Direct. I had to think about that. I don't want to call it the Shocker Shop Direct anymore. But we appreciate everyone that listens, obviously. I think you're planning on having a wee chat during the week, Mozza, hopefully.
I might be. I'll obviously keep you posted if it's happening, and look at the Catchup Twitter for a kind of update and see if there's going to be any forthcoming interviews and so on as well.
Yeah, and I myself will probably hopefully have a couple of chats as well. Obviously, Eddie Martin, who I talked about earlier, the mental health ambassador for Dunfermline Athletic. I'm hopefully going to have a wee chat with him for the podcast, and maybe another few in there as well. So, no, as I say, I appreciate everyone listening in, and we appreciate the support, and hopefully we'll be back soon to have more stuff to talk about.